I know that with the complaints, I gave permission for all my medical records for the 2 years, through the 2 years prior to the drilling beginning. But what bothers me is that diesel exhaust was a great portion of this. Is there anything that's going to be done to help prevent diesel exhaust on these drill sites? Because diesel exhaust has been proven to cause brain damage in children and others, because the tests that show the it causes brain damage was done on adults. Children's minds are the most sensitive. You are in residential areas with most of this drilling now, and they're still using diesel engines. At times, your report stated they had at least 10 diesel engines running. So who's protecting us? Because those fumes are toxic. I believe those fumes are also what was responsible for setting off my carbon monoxide detector on multiple occasions. And that's scary. I was afraid I would never wake up because I have no gas in my home. And so, is there anything that you, or is it just going to have to come down to legislative changes that they can't use diesel exhaust, diesel run engines? Because they use diesel generators all the time.
I mean, that's not anything that's unique to oil and gas. So I do understand the concerns there. I know that we have had recent revisions to our rule related to engines. I don't have any specific detail for you except to say that engines as a whole have been looked at, one because of their impact on ozone non-attainment status and the NOx emissions, but it's not just related to oil and gas, but it is something that we do. And as far as your, I think you talked about the 2 years, 5 months. I was not aware personally that there were maybe before. I know that you and I talked, and you may be aware of that. And I think that at that point, we got to dialogue about what we needed to get about the information. I think that's how we were able to substantiate some of the violation of the rules.
I understand it. It took a lot on my part to give permission for all that they got to. And the doctor's letter was very detailed, and that did help. So I appreciate their cooperation with that, and I want that well known. But it's been a long, hard struggle for me for all this time, because I was chemically sensitive and stable before this began, and it went drastically downhill. And it's still costing me a fortune to try to maintain any semblance of health. And one of the last lawyers I spoke to said that I can't help you now, but if you get cancer in a couple years, I can help you then, and I can win. And that's what a lot of people are facing now. They're afraid. With my chemical sensitivities, doing chemotherapy would probably kill me because of the reactions I have. And we need more in prevention. And I really, really, honestly, strongly feel, as an RN with a bachelor's degree, that we need to do more, especially in the line of prevention. Because in residential areas where any of this is near us, it has to be addressed. Thank you.
Sarah McGarry? Sorry, I have a really quick question, and they're kind of like hypotheticals a little bit.
Say your name.
Sarah McGarry. I'm from Denton, and I'm an attorney, but I'm not here as an attorney. I'm here as a cranky person, which might be the same thing, actually. Okay. First thing I wanted to know was more about the enforcement action, and I talked with Elisa a little bit about it. So you're saying that you have to go to the Attorney General's office to, withdraw a permit? What is the actual thing that's going to happen? What is the piece of paper? What is it called?
Well, no, I'm not talking about withdrawing the permit. What I was saying is that in order to get a shutdown on that facility, we don't have statutory authority to get it ourselves. We have to go to the Attorney General to get that order. So this would not be necessarily about a permit.
Okay, so what do you have to do to pull a permit? Let's say there's a permit by rule, there's a compressor, and it's nasty, and you determine that there's fumes coming off of it, and it's making people sick. There's a lot of ifs. And that the operator is not taking steps to remedy it. What do you do to pull the permit?
You just stated it. And that's the issue, proving that up. If we prove up in your hypothetical situation that the company is operating in non-compliance, they continue to operate in non-compliance, either would not or could not fix that problem.
How much non-compliance does it take? What's your process? Is it like third strike, second strike? What is it?
It depends on the level of that non-compliance. I mean, if we're talking about an issue where they are emitting pollutants that are considered to be at a level that would be, and I've used, without any doctor statements or anything else like that, what we'll be using it is monitoring data. And what we use kind of as thresholds of monitoring data is where our toxicology review the data that we collect and say that these levels are at a level that we potentially cause these health effects. If they're doing that and they would not or could not fix those, correct that situation, then at that point we pursue shutdown of that activity.
By
First
pulling
option
the
is-
permit by rule.
The idea of pulling the permit is not necessarily shutting the facility. Now, the shutdown is what we're talking about, going to stop the emission.
Right.
The idea of not allowing them to do that again, I think somebody already asked me that, we've not done that in the Marlin Shale. But the process would be first to say, if those emissions are going on, if the company would not or could not stop that, and then ask them to shut them down.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like it's discretionary. Like there doesn't seem to be a hard and fast rule on what it takes to pull a permit off of like a compression station.
But yeah, you're right, it is discretionary. We have to make that case. We have to present that case to our commission.
And it hasn't happened before, right?
Not to my knowledge, within the defined area of ownership.
Okay.
I don't know that that's the case statewide.
All right, so now I have a hypothetical for the EPA. Let's say TCEQ has their new permit by rule, and it has to be in compliance with the Clean Air Act, obviously, in order to exempt it from all the NACs and whatnot. Let's say they have a new permit by rule, and it doesn't comply with the Clean Air Act in different parts. What is EPA going to do?
Well, they haven't adopted, you know.
It's hypothetical.
Yeah, but part of it is, you know, are they in compliance with the delegated program or the authorized program? And so, you know, we have to look at that and see.
What do you mean by delegated program? The SIP?
No. They have authorization to run certain programs.
Okay.
The Clean Air Act, it may be called one thing, the Water Act, it may be called something
Okay.
else. The Railroad Commission's ability is a separate, you know, authorization. And so generically, we talk about delegated or authorized programs. So do they meet the requirements of the federal act? That's your question. And so the question would then be, you know, does it measure up? You know, and there's the potential that you would always come in and say, no, this isn't, you know, meeting the requirement. You know, usually that started off with discussions, you know, and, you know, what are the resources that you have dedicated to this? Is that the problem? You know, it's, you know, letting the commissioners know to do it once you have ultimate authority for running the program. And so it's a matter of, you know, looking at the program as authorized, and does the program, you know, pony up basically to meet the goals. There have been, you know, some programs in the past we said, you know, if you adopt this rule, this new program, you will put, you know, the authorization of the program at risk, because you will no longer be doing the program that you were delegating. You told us you would either put these resources towards it, or we've adopted these rules. And if you change that, you know, the process, you know, becomes, you know, well, maybe you won't be running the program, and the federal government would have to take that over. Usually the state and industry itself isn't looking forward to that.
So you're telling me if TCEQ permit by rule doesn't comply with its federal whatnot, that you will talk with the commissioners and y'all have like powwow and stuff, and then if no one agrees, then you'll talk some more. Is that a pretty good assessment? I'm just trying to understand.
You know, you reach a point, you know, where you say, hey, you know, this is not what you were, you know, authorized to do. It's this whole argument about, you know, like permits and things like that are ongoing. You know, so it's hypothetical only in a sense. You know, and you're trying to reach an agreement, so you know that's fixed. You know, they're subject to citizen suits over some of the things.
Did you say citizen suits?
Yes. And there are certain parts where, you know, they can, you know, they can go towards that. You know, the companies are, you know, at risk. You know, if they have permits that are not compliant, you know, they need to be. Now, there are some things that TCEQ regulates that we have no authority over either, that they may go beyond. And so whether or not we think that, is adequate, to protect people generally, is not the question if we don't have the authority to regulate it either.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both.
Christine?
My name is Christine Ruggiero. I live at 415 Star Shell Road in Decatur, Texas. I hadn't planned on speaking tonight, but it seemed like there were some questions about the enforcement action that has been taken. That enforcement action was on our property. It was rolled up into three violations rolled up into one enforcement. There were violations on January 17th, February 3rd, February 27th, and February 28th. I have spent the last year, all of my free time, monitoring Aruba Petroleum and trying to protect my family. I don't know why what I did or what they did resulted in enforcement action. I'm grateful that the TCEQ took enforcement action, but I'm very disappointed in, one, those 4 different days of violations being rolled up into one enforcement, because I think it disguises a pattern. On July 25th, my neighbor, Lisa Park, submitted a complaint for the very same violation as February 3rd, February 27th, and February 28th. The enforcement action is still not closed. The company, when it is closed, will pay $35,000. I know that there are a lot of other toxins out there other than benzene, but January 17th, the reading was 59 parts per billion. February 3rd, 120 parts per billion. This facility is 300 feet from my home. The facility that Lisa complained about is 600 feet on the other side. And on July 25th, it was 120 parts per billion. So I've been paying attention to this since they arrived. I have a timeline that's probably 30 pages long, and that's what I do with my free time. That's my plan. The TCEQ investigators have been very helpful, very respectful. I think that here locally, you're trying to do the best that you can, but it gets drawn out so much. The first thing that Aruba did was to hire an ex-TCEQ attorney to defend them against the TCEQ. I don't know if that's the first thing, but they have established a pattern. I had submitted a public comment to the TCEQ regarding the enforcement. I'd like to give a copy of that to the EPA. There have been 38 complaints against Aruba Petroleum in the last year and a half on 8 different leases, 8 to 9 different facilities. There's a pattern there. I complained in May that my home is surrounded in toxic fumes. Someone on the Bucci lease, which is on the other side of Decatur, makes the same complaint 2 months later. No violations found. I don't want to spend the rest of my life doing this. And I don't want... This has taken me away from my daughter. And that's why I resent that more than anything else.
So with 38 complaints, do you continue situation?